Earlier this week, I had the absolute pleasure to sit down for an hour and talk with independent filmmaker Jason Trost. If you don't know who Jason is, he is the creator, lead actor, and director of the FP franchise, the All Superheroes Must Die series, Wet and Reckless, How to Save Us, and he came here to talk to me about his new movie, The Waves of Madness, and his new upcoming project, Afar, an interactive movie. So please enjoy my interview with the great Jason Trost. Jason, how are you?
Doing not too bad. Down under, surviving the rain. It's turning into winter down here. Is it turning into summer for you guys?
Yeah, I'm in the Midwest, so it's just awful all the time.
Oh yeah. Where in the Midwest?
I'm in Illinois.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's really awful. That was the
Uh-huh.
year it was colder there than Antarctica, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it sucks here about 365 days of the year.
Love it.
So you are here today, and I really appreciate it that you came here to talk to me about your new movie, The Waves of Madness, which is the first ever side-scrolling movie.
I mean, I think that's true. That's what we said.
I saw the trailer and it says that, and I Googled to verify. I was like, I believe him, but I gotta check because somebody's got to have done it before, and nobody's done it.
I remember handing in the trailer to the distributor to Umbrella, and they had all these notes about like, "God, we can't tell it's a side-scroller movie and this, that, and the other thing." And then I just sent them back the same trailer, but with that title card in it. And they're like, "Perfect. We love what you did."
That's awesome.
It is. Sure.
I have a lot of questions about that, but first, for the people who don't know you or know what you do, could you give yourself a brief summary of who is Jason Trost?
So most people, God, what is Jason Trost? I'm still trying to figure that out. And there was a great quote, I think, from God, I can't remember who, and I probably will get the quote wrong as well, but it was a musician that was basically like, it took me a long time to sound like me. And that's what I feel like with filmmaking. I feel like I've spent about 20 years trying to figure out what the hell it is I'm all about. And I found what it is that I'm about is I like taking all of my experience. And I grew up in the film business as a little set brat because my dad was a special effects guy on big movies. So I was always on film crews and I always wanted to make movies. And what I got to the point of, I'd done that so much as a kid, I didn't realize, like, I don't really care about being corporate and doing the same thing over and over again. I got into this because I grew up with movie magic where, when you're a kid and you see Star Wars, you're like, how the hell did they do that? I've never seen that before. And I feel like we're in a time now with movies where we don't really get that feeling anymore. And for me, my main mission statement is I'm only going to make something if you haven't seen it before and only I can make it. Which, yeah, is that always going to be marketable? Are a lot of people going to like it? Probably not, but I can guarantee you've never seen it before. And that's a fun challenge for me because if I'm going to spend a year or two of my life making one of these movies, I want to make sure I'm creating something that doesn't exist yet instead of just being what I find we're in this era where most filmmakers have just become cover bands. And it's like, hey, here's my version of this thing that was done better by the people back in the day. And I'm like, I get why you do that. There's a lot of money and acclaim in that, but
I think that's why I was so drawn to your movies because I've been watching your movies since high school. I found
Lord, how old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay, jeez. All right.
So I found the
I feel
FP.
old. It's all right.
I apologize. I found the FP when I was a freshman in high school, I believe.
God, what was that like? Watching
Awesome.
like 14 years old. Okay.
Definitely a terrible influence, but it was an incredible experience because I immediately had to show everyone I knew.
No, amazing. Yeah, FP is one of those amazing things because I made it as something making fun of a certain type of person, a certain type of culture I grew up with when I was in high school. It's based on a lot of the experiences I had in high school and the amount of people that are just like take it as this mantra, like they don't understand that it's a parody. It's like I'm making fun of like misogynist, racist white guy. You don't. Oh, okay. You think I'm one of them? That's interesting. That's a funny note. And because me, I was like, it's Dance Dance Revolution, and they fight to the death over Dance Dance Revolution. Of course, it's a joke. But the amount of people you'll come across that do not get that movie's a joke is just it's baffling to me. And that's when I kind of realized, like, oh no, I don't think I have a shot at being mainstream because what I thought was a very obvious joke went over 99% of people's heads. Guess I'll reassess my goals now.
I don't know how people could. It's pretty obvious what you're getting
I
at
thought so
there,
too.
but I guess some people
Here
aren't.
we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll still get like hate mail. Be like, "You're such a racist asshole." I'm like, I'm on your side, guys.
When I reached out to you, I asked you about kind of like the influence of Resident Evil on your movies and stuff like that, because now after seeing it, Waves of Madness is Resident Evil influenced, and I'll get to that too. I feel like you can get to know a lot about a person by knowing their favorite media they consume.
Sure.
Off the top of your head, can you hit me with not like a ranking, just the general like top 3 movies or top 3 video games? Like what are your top?
I mean, it's so hard for me because there's a lot of movies and games I really like in different scenarios, and this list fluctuates all the time. But I guess if I had to have like a gun at my head right now, I'm gonna say Terminator 2 for movies. And then like, God, getting into the movies thing, it's so tough because I have a drawer over here. Basically, I got so sick of it in the pandemic of streaming services like gobbling everything up and physical media dying that I went and like just got what was supposed to be 50 of my favorite movies on 4K Blu-ray before it all disappears, so at least I have the best copy I can. Long story short, now I've got a drawer with like 500 of my favorite movies in there. So trying to narrow that down to 3 is very difficult, but I mean, usually it's like, I don't know, what's my favorite movie or what's like my favorite James Cameron or Arnold movie, it's like they usually go
Yeah.
hand in hand, but then there's also, First Blood and Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, like it just I don't know, it's probably pretty and John Carpenter movies like The Thing, obviously, like, it's one of my all-time favorites, Big Trouble in Little China, obviously, The Escape from New Yorks and LA's, and I don't know, I can go on and on, but video games, that's probably more prevalent to what we're gonna talk about, like, obviously, Resident Evil, Silent Hill series, especially the originals on PS1 are always a huge influence on me, and you can see that, I'm sure, in Waves of Madness, as well as, like, How to Save Us and other things I've done. I love the early Final Fantasy games. I'm a big JRPG fan. They've been releasing a lot of remasters of those recently, which I've been really happy about, and I'm getting all the physicals on Switch and just slamming through all the I'm playing Lunar right now for the first time finally, which I'm stoked about, which probably came out before you were born. Um, yeah, God, I don't. I'm the worst person to ask about favorites because there's so much stuff that I really love that really influences me.
That was great.
It's a topic that once I get into it, I can just start going, and then I'll remember one thing like, oh yeah, I also love that. But as far as let's just say top 3 reference points of video games for Waves of Madness would definitely be Resident Evil 1, Silent Hill, and then probably I mean obviously there's like probably a little bit of Metal Slug in there and whatnot, but There's actually there's a couple of, like, indie horror side-scrolling games that really got the ball rolling on this. One visually is Limbo, because I always loved the black and white style, like, shadow silhouette horror vibe of that. That game is really cool and twisted. Um, there's also a game God, why am I struggling to remember what it's called? Oxenfree, obviously.
Mhm,
I don't know if you played Oxenfree.
mhm.
That was one of the first times I remember getting this idea because 'cause I've always wanted to do a side-scrolling movie. I'm like, "Who the hell would follow that for a whole movie?" And I was playing that, and I was like, "This is so cool." Like, you're just with the characters, and you're just watching it like a player that moves. That's such a neat idea. And then there were some other horror side-scrolling games I played on Switch, and I was like, "I think there's something here." And then over the years, I just kind of said, "Screw it, and let's do it." And, like, the pandemic was really a thing for me where I'm like, "I don't know, maybe we're all gonna die next year. I should just do this. I've always wanted to." So I just did it, and here we are. And then the pandemic ended, and now I have
That was you perfectly just rolled right into my next question, which was gonna
almost
be
almost like I've been doing this for 20 years.
yeah, which was gonna be where did you land on this side-scrolling movie idea? Where did that come from? Which I'm guessing from the Metal Slug, and like you said
Well, yeah,
there.
actually, the first and, like, if you get there's a special edition Blu-ray by Umbrella that has, like, the behind the scenes booklet where I write there's, like, 3,000 words or something where I articulate all of this much better. But it started as I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna make a Metal Slug. I'm gonna make my version of a Metal Slug movie. Let's do this." And then I got into it, I was like, "Holy shit, man, this is gonna be so complicated. Your first side-scrolling movie, you're gonna try to do the hardest version of it possible. Let's dial it back." And I was like, "Okay, fine, let's do." I always wanted to make a Cthulhu movie too, so it's like, "All right, fine, we'll just kinda smash those together." Like Resident Evil meets Cthulhu, that sounds pretty cool. I'd watch that. And that's when that starts I start riffing on an idea. But then for me, what always happens when I come up with an idea is there's like some form of research that gets the story rolling. And for me, it was when I was researching in the Call of Cthulhu, the old story. I was like, where does he actually come from? Like, where is the geographical point if we were talking like if Cthulhu actually existed on Earth, that he would exist? And then that takes you to actually geographical. It's right near a place called Point Nemo, which is also the spaceship graveyard. It's the point of inaccessibility where it's essentially the furthest from any landmass on Earth. like in the middle of the ocean, like nothing lives out there. They drop decommissioned satellites and space stations, whatever out there. I did all this research for that and I was like, holy shit, this is real? This is awesome. Why has no one ever made a movie about this area? This sounds crazy. What a great setup. And as I started like researching that more and more and more, I'm like, so you're telling me that Cthulhu is actually in the coolest place geographically that it could possibly be set for the setup of a Resident Evil movie? All right, I guess I'm doing this.
A lot of the Resident Evil influences were clear to me, like, immediately because 'cause I'm also a very, very big Resident Evil fan, including the SD Perry store, like, right at the beginning, and I was like as soon as I saw it, I was like,
Perfect.
"There it is."
Anyone who gets that reference gets an A plus in my book because you're not a true Resident Evil fan for me unless you know who SD Perry is and you celebrate the entire collection. And I guess I should segue to why this movie also happened was during the pandemic. I hadn't been reading for a while. I don't know, my foot like I hadn't read a book in like a year or two and I just felt gross. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back and read something I want to read. And then I just went and found all six, or is it seven? Might be seven is six of the SD Perry Resident Evil books, and I just plowed through all of them. And then I was like, "Ah, God, I wish I could make a Resident Evil movie. God, I wish those rights weren't so fucked. All right, I'll make my version of a Resident Evil movie." And then this happened because I've just always loved those books.
Yeah, this movie is clearly like a love letter to Resident Evil, but also just kind of video games as a whole. So, like, well, as I was watching it, there were things I would see that were very like classic, like video game tropes, like the audio logs, of course, that plague every single game. You have to listen to somebody talk while you run around. Not that that's a bag on your movie; it's done very well in your
No, but
movie, but
I particularly hate when audio logs you have to just stand there and listen. I like the ones where they let you keep moving while they go on, so I can go do the stupid looting shit while I can hear the story. Like, it's like listening to a podcast like this when you're cleaning your house.
yeah,
It's fun.
exactly. It's significantly better than the Resident Evil trope of reading a book every 5 minutes. Chica.
Well, look, I used to love those. Like, dude, like the itchy, tasty book from the first one, iconic. But what used to be in the logs you'd read is they'd be real gentle. It's like, 5 little pages of something. It might take you 2 minutes to read the whole thing. Now, when you open up a log in these new AAA games, it's like, holy shit, this is gonna take me an hour to read this, and this is just for a side quest that doesn't matter. No way.
Yeah, they're giving you an extra book just for fun to read in there. But, there was a couple other like picking up the weapons from the down like those there's a part where people fall down and you take a gun from them. I don't wanna spoil the movie, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there anything that was like a video game trope that you wanted to include in this that you didn't have a chance to, or was this your full vision all
Oh,
the way
well,
through?
no, there was oh, man, there's so much stuff I wanted to include, but, your budget and the practicality of what you're doing definitely hits, and that's why I was saying this started as a Metal Slug movie, which in that version of the script, it starts with us literally, like, running out of a jet plane and Halo dropping onto a secret island, and I was like, "Okay, whoa, 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 what this isn't gonna work." But yeah, like, because then I was gonna have there was gonna be, like, a parachuting action sequence flying through the air and Cthulhu monster. I was like, "Dude, slow down, this is crazy." It would've been awesome, but I'm like, "I can't do that in a studio apartment." Actually, we shot most of the movie upstairs in an apartment just like this with a, wall with green screen on it, so that's
Yeah.
where the limitation would come from.
You sent me over the making of as well with the screener for this, and in that making of, you're in a room like what you're in now, that's what you said,
Yeah,
15 feet
upstairs.
of green
Yeah.
screen, and then
Mhm.
green, like, cushion floor tiles, and that's where you shot, like, 90% of this movie.
Yeah, and that's how I then had to make every single set scene, like, adjust for that 15 feet, so I knew every frame was like, "Okay, this is the play we're on. This is how I know we can shoot the whole thing." I shot the thing in 8K, so then I could zoom in and scroll and track however I wanted and not lose detail because it's just so much to wrap your head around. Because at first you're like, "Yeah, we'll put it on a dolly and we'll move it," and I'm like, "No, that's a nightmare. That's never gonna work. Let's just do it like this, and I'll play the video game in post." And kind of figure out where the moments are and hit that stuff and land. And it was really fun because I built out the entire ship in like all the levels were built before we started shooting. So every time we'd shoot a scene, I'd be like, okay, so this is casino room 3A. I'll pull up that slide. Okay, this is where we're at. Okay, you can go that far, you can go over that. There's a table there. I can move it if I have to, but I'd rather not. It's like stuff like that that it was a fun little puzzle.
You nailed it again on my question beforehand that I was gonna ask.
Right.
If you had the ship whole, like, pre-mapped out beforehand, so every
I
room
actually
was
made it like a Castlevania Symphony of the Night Metroidvania map before. That's with like the different levels and that's what I was like, okay, I understand how this movie flows. And I had to make that when I was writing it too, because I was like, you kind of have to throw a lot out the window when you're writing something like this, because you can't do things like you can't read them. He's like, oh, I'll just cut to the close up on that, or oh, we'll go over the meanwhile at the bad guy's lair or whatever. And like none of that stuff can happen because it all has to be in real time because you're side scrolling. So you're in this person's perspective, just seeing what they see, but not even really seeing what they see because you as the audience can't necessarily what I would see 20 feet away because you're only seeing the side of me. And it was just, it was a lot of fun, but it was pretty wild that it's one thing to say you want to make a side scrolling movie, and it's quite another thing to actually do it. And yeah, to get back to the question of other things I wish I could have done that I didn't, it's like, yes. And that a lot of those are planned out for a sequel that I would like to make that's already been written. And I'm hoping that this one gets enough attention so I could do it. And that one is essentially just Resident Evil meets Castlevania. And that one's pretty much my dream side scrolling movie. And
That is
they,
instant sell for me on the movie.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to say too much, but that one's where it's at.
Yeah, I definitely am all in on that whenever that comes around. When you're doing this whole movie on green screen, outside of a scene where you put a car in a garage sideways and put a green screen around a boat, it's some pretty nuts, just, figuring stuff out. How different is that from your average movie when you're making another movie, say like How to Save Us? I watched your commentary on that recently, where you were talking about you went on a vacation to this place, kind of location scouted, and then did stuff. Was this different from that experience?
Well, it's different. Like, there's a lot more time in post production, obviously, and pre production with this because I had to build everything on the computer first. But there's just a way more time spent in pre and post production, but also it's so much less stressful. I can't even explain it. And like, it is so much easier on your body and your mind to do. Like, when you do something like How to Save Us, you go out there, it can look amazing, it can look pretty, but you're lugging a backpack full of gear out in the middle of nowhere and trying to do this. And you're also trying to keep your other few crew members from like dropping, and all this morale and like, where's the bathroom? Who brought the food? Somebody forgot the water. Like, it's just such a nightmare. When you do it this way, it's like it's temperature controlled. You have AC, you're inside, the bathroom's over there, it's clean. Oh, you want some food? We'll Uber Eats anything you want. We'll be here in 5 minutes. Like, it's just the difference in that. And plus, like, just being able to take the time and being comfortable and like acting wise, I found like I know a lot of people bitch and moan about acting on green screen, but I kind of feel the opposite where you actually get to focus and be more comfortable. And I don't know if a lot of those actors that complain about green screen have actually been out on a low budget movie out in the middle of like, you know, sub-zero temperatures and like having to cry and be cold and like you can't use the bathroom and you're dirty and everything sucks and it's painful. Yeah, it can get a performance, but man, it's not something I'm looking forward to doing. And like, starting to get a little bit older, I can kind of feel it a little more when I go out and do those things. But when I do it like this, I'm like, oh, I could do this for another 20 years easy. I can just go take a nap on the couch if there's a problem.
So, like I said with How to Save Us, you kind of went there and vacationed and location scouted, and then placed the pieces of the movie around that. What is your general your process for when you're making one of these films? Like, clearly you're like you're writing it, and then there's all the steps there. But in what order do you kind of piece that together? Are you looking for a location and then writing around that, or how do you usually go about your process?
Well,
A rough outline.
usually I kind of get some sort of inspiration. I don't know why or how or from where. It's like a lightning flash. I'm like, God, that'd be a cool idea. And then something will come up to where I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. And then you'll be like that, for instance, I went on vacation, like, this place is awesome. I have always wanted to make a ghost movie. Maybe this is the place to do that. And you start thinking about, and then when you're shooting something practical, low budget for me, you always want to develop it around a location, you have access to that looks a certain way that you can manipulate and you can go and shoot guerrilla and not get in a lot of trouble for. But with green screen, it's totally different. With this wood, it was totally different process because I can do whatever I want, in theory. Yeah, I don't have access to a cruise ship, but I guess I can just walk around and take pictures of things that kind of look like they'd be on a cruise ship. And then in post, take all those pictures and Photoshop them together until they look like a level, which I got the inspiration of doing that sort of style with like from pre-rendered backgrounds from like the PS1 Resident Evils and things where you have a little polygonal character walking around the awesome pre-rendered background. I was like, wait, I could just make a pre-rendered background movie. It's like, yeah, it is technically digital and on green screen, but all the elements are real. So it's just an interesting way to like train your brain with that. And this one was a learning process with that because I kept trying to be like, okay, well, I know I can get a picture of that bench. I guess I'll write a scene around that bench. And I'm like, stop it. You don't have to do that anymore. We can we can go bigger. We can go crazier. So we'll see what that yields on the next one now that I'm a little more confident. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's madness when an idea strikes. You have no idea where.
I definitely get it.
Yeah.
The whole side-scrolling movie of it all. You're clearly moving, in space, and then the background moves separately of you, like a side-scrolling movie. You did a very good job with making the movie feel like it's actually a side-scroller. At this, like the speed and the pace that the background moves opposite of your character moving around the area. What was did you have like a set speed that you were moving these at? Were you hand moving all of these?
Yeah.
How did you?
It was so
craft
tricky,
that?
and it's different from every shot because I remember being like, it'll be easy enough. Like I've got most of the sets built. I'll just green screen, cut the people out, toss them in there. Pretty much done, right? Bob's your aunt. No, it's like that. Developing the speed of that was such a thing because trying to like digitally track the camera on perfectly and not have the camera do like jank things that like even if I don't know. I found a lot of times I'm like, but the math is perfect. It was so much math. I wish I took some pictures of them actually. I have these post-it notes that look like a psychopath where it's just if there's so many math equations and things, it's like, okay, from left, the x-axis, it has to be at negative 36.182 to negative 0.58386 over here. And like, it just got out of control. I streamlined a lot of that, so it'll be easier in the future. But like coming up with all those algorithms and equations that took me, I think the first 5 minutes of the movie, like that opening on the ship, probably took like 2 months for me to just kinda like dial in how the hell this all works and how to make it move right, make it smooth and all of that because it's something that seems so simple, but is so needlessly complicated.
It looked incredible. So all of your hard work pays off, but it sounds like you were like charting a boat path while you were doing.
Right? Thank you so much.
That's about all I have for Waves of Madness because I don't want to get too far and I don't want to get into the spoiler area because there's a lot of very specific
Sure.
questions I could ask. But
Oh, 100%.
is there anything that no one has asked you about Waves of Madness or anything that you want people to know about it specifically?
Uh, I mean, sure. Let's see. What hasn't someone asked me about Waves of Madness? Almost nobody asks me, was this inspired by the Lovecraft book Call of Cthulhu? And the answer would be yes, even down to character names, locations, like little bits of the story, little this and that. So that was definitely, I was reading that in the pandemic and I was like, God, Call of Cthulhu is awesome. Should do something with that. And then this came up. But yeah, I don't know, questions that people haven't asked. Who is this movie for? I have no idea. Definitely not people who don't like video games.
This guy right here.
Yeah, great. It's for this guy right here.
And hopefully everyone watching at home.
Yeah. let's
So the Waves of Madness is out digitally now here, correct, on iTunes and here in America.
Yes. Yeah, in America, it's out on iTunes and Google and YouTube and should be on Amazon anytime now. It'll be out June 5th on Blu-ray, and you can get that at the Umbrella website, which they have a bunch of other awesome Blu-rays. They do a lot of like restorations of old stuff, and they release a lot of cool stuff. They ship worldwide. All their discs are region free, so go nuts. If you order enough things, you get free shipping to America. I don't know if you can avoid the tariffs with that, but that's a horror conversation.
Good luck there. That's what we got on Waves of Madness. But last night you sent me at, I don't know, I think 2 a.m. my time or whatever. I woke up to was that a Kickstarter page or Indiegogo?
Oh, it's an Indiegogo.
Indiegogo page for a movie called Afar that is an interactive movie that is based in the How to Save Us universe. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's essentially a sequel to How to Save Us. And I've again like side-scrolling movie that I've always wanted to do forever. Also wanted to do an interactive movie for God knows how long. And I was like, screw it, I'll just do it. And so I've shot this thing. It's bananas. There's a lot of How to Save Us sort of tropes and things in there, but it goes to another level. Like I took some things I learned from Waves of Madness and implied it into this. It's my character from Waves of Madness, Brian Everett, who's a private investigator of paranormal sort of situations now, 10 plus years later, gets a mission to go into a very haunted valley and some shit gets really dark and crazy. And, he gets a little bit more than he bargained for. And hopefully you, as the viewer and the player, can help get him out. There's 5 different endings and we'll see how you do. You can watch it the 3 to 5 different times. And it's interesting because I've watched a lot of these interactive movies, and it's kind of like, you can make a couple choices and it ends, or they're like way too long and it's not really, conducive to wanting to replay it. But for me, the whole adventure, it'll take you about 30 minutes to get through a playthrough. And then you can go back, and there's so many different points where if you want to get the entire lore or story of the world, you'll get like an option, for instance, where it's like, okay, do you want to look at his journal? Do you want to look at his phone? Or do you want to look at newspaper clippings? Each one yields completely different clues towards what's going on in this world. And then there's other things that'll come up where it's like, do you go investigate this part of the map? Do you go there? There's like world map points that'll come up, and you get totally different scares and parts of the story. And then as you start getting towards the end, it's of course like, are you gonna die? Are you gonna get this ending or that ending or the other? And it gets quite intense. And it was very fun to write because it was a challenge. I've never done that before, but it's very hard to explain without you just doing it. That's why I thought it was important to put together a demo that gives you the tip of the iceberg for the Indiegogo page. So when you go in there, you can play the demo. In there, there's 3 different routes of different things. Go nuts. I'm also writing a choose your own adventure / choose your own horror book compendium that goes with it. That'll be a fun novelization.
Yeah, I saw that here on the page. And is that a separate story from what you're getting in the interactive movie, or is it the same?
No,
Just like a
it's the
novelization that
same
you're
story, but it's not. But yes, it's a novelization. It's the S.D. Perry companion book to
Okay.
the movie.
When Afar releases, it says in your Indiegogo also that's you play it with your DVD remote. Do you have any intentions of releasing this like an FMV game, like on Steam or
I look,
on
I do.
Xbox, or the load of achievements for a guy like me that really
Look,
wants more achievements?
look. That would be awesome to get it on Xbox and PlayStation and Switch and all that stuff. But I just don't know what the logistics are of all that. What I do know in my research and from friends I have in the game business that Steam is actually pretty easy to get something up on in the scheme of things. So I want to handle the DVD release of this because I am such a big physical media person that I want to make sure that if you want this, you can own it, put it on the wall. Like, remember that weird, stupid whatever experiment this guy did that was crazy back in the day? Here it is, pulled off the wall. You can play it. Also, no matter, most people have a DVD or a Blu-ray player, so you can just, you don't need to buy a new system for it. Everyone pretty much has it. But then also, like, it's hard to do otherwise. So, like, Steam would be a fun option for it, but I'm going to try to get into that after the release of everything because since I'm the only guy putting this together, this is like the first time I'm made something where it's legitimately all me. No one else has been like shooting on this. Like, I've shot another like, couple actors or two, but like I am the camera person, I'm the sound person, I'm the guy in front of the camera. I'm shooting it on these action cameras that connect to my phone so I can press record and make sure that I'm in frame. And it's wild. Like if I make a making up for this one, give you a headache.
So you mentioned that you work with like one or two people. Usually you work with one or two people. It's mostly you doing most of the stuff. Are you learning?
Yeah.
Are you like coding this as the choose your own adventure? How are you making that work? Because
Great.
that's so much different out of the wheelhouse of what you're doing already.
It is. It's in the script. The script is written as such where I had to write the script side by side with an Excel spreadsheet that was the strategy guide. So it's like everything's labeled. So like instead of a scene number, you have like choice 1A or like movie 2.5, and they all link together. And so I know what's going on, but I tried to like pitch this to someone to like let them read through it. And I had to like make this very detailed strategy guide so this kind of could, and they were still kind of confused. And I was like, okay, it's fine. It'll make sense to me to play it. Don't worry. Or it won't, but it'll make sense to me. Yeah, it's very tricky. It's a lot of fun though, but for me as like a creative who's been doing this for so long, like the idea of just writing another like same old script and hoping somebody likes it, there's not a whole lot of like fun and intrigue there because I've done it so many times. It's fun to like challenge myself and try to do something new that most people haven't done.
Yeah, those FMV games are very few and far between. You don't see a whole lot of them, but sometimes they're super cool.
Not enough.
You mentioned the demo. Is that is out now? If you go to Indiegogo right this moment, you can play that demo.
Yeah, if you go on the Indiegogo, just press play on the video that's there on Indiegogo, or click go to YouTube, which is on the video. It'll take you in there. I suggest doing it on a computer if you can, because that way the choices will pop up. I'm not sure how it works on a phone.
Yeah,
have somebody else game test that later.
I didn't even realize, as someone who puts a lot of things on YouTube, I did not realize that YouTube had an option where you could do something that's interactive like that.
Yeah, and it's tricky because it has to be at the end of the video,
Oh,
a certain time length. So I actually had to do some tricky recoding to make the demo work. The demo that's why it's a work in progress, because it's slightly different than how I would probably do it on the DVD, but I
okay.
hit a happy medium.
I understand how you're doing that behind the scenes of an end frame, those end frame videos where you
Yeah.
pull the next one. Okay, yeah, I feel like that was something that was done way long ago, like 2006 YouTube. Like there was a series of people doing like choose your own adventures. That was a long time. That's a very specific poll you used. I would have never thought to do a demo that way. I'll have all that linked in the video on YouTube so everybody can find the links for the Waves of Madness. I keep saying waves. It's the Waves of Madness, and I meant to make sure I was very specific on the Waves of Madness. So I apologize for cutting a word off of your title. All your purchasing areas and the Indiegogo for that. So if anybody wants to go back that or go find those, they should definitely go watch Waves of Madness. That was really good. Those will all be there. But now I kind of want to deep dive your career with the last bit of time we have here.
Oh, geez.
Because there's a lot of things. Like I mentioned to you before, I've been watching you since high school. I've seen almost everything you've done that I know of.
Wild.
I've seen. I've been following you a very long time. Like I showed you these here DVDs that I have. These are the only two I have. I don't have the FP. I just have All Superheroes and
That's wild.
How to Save Us.
Yeah.
And
I
this
don't
one,
have those two, I don't think.
I bought this and then I took it to my grandparents and made them watch it with me.
That's awesome. There was a time because of like distributor woes, and that's a whole other, you could do an entire podcast on what went wrong with that. But I had like hundreds of these DVDs that I had to just give away. I tried to like give them away at thrift stores and whatever because they were just like useless. But had it like, I wish public libraries were as big of a deal back then as they are now, because then I just would have gone and just like dropped one off on every single one.
Yeah, when I saw How to Save Us in a family video, I was like, somebody else knows about this? Because I was like, it's you have a cult following of people that really
very cult.
I assume that there's a lot of people like me that are really into what you do. The word needs to get out more. Like I've been spreading the word of Jason Trost across the Midwest for a decade now.
I appreciate it. A lot of people always ask what's the best thing they could do to help or this, that, just like show your friends, get more people to spread the word, because it's so hard now with like how like all the social medias and everything crack down the algorithms. Like you basically can't even get in touch with any of your followers anymore. And it's so like random that like my biggest thing is like, just if you hear about it, tell your friends. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, that's exactly as soon as I saw FB, I was like, everyone needs to know what this is. I took it everywhere. But there was a little anecdote there because I have a friend that I bounce like all my ideas off of that doesn't do anything related to any of this. That is the first person that I took the FP to, and I was like, "Is there anything I should ask him?" And he was like, I kind of ran through the stuff, and he was like, "You've got most of everything, but you should let him know that we watched his movies in our high school band class on an iPhone. We would watch All Superheroes Must Die and Wet and Reckless on my phone in our high school band class all the time while things were going on, and we'd just be rolling in the back over that. So that anecdote was asked to be given to you.
That's one of the best stories ever. I mean, if that doesn't say you've made it, I don't know.
And I have it here.
It's in school watching your movies. That's amazing.
Most certainly, unless you just had All Superheroes on YouTube, that was a rip, and I apologize, but I paid for it later on. So, there's your payment for your pirated movie,
dude. When you start getting down to that distributors and everything, it's so rare if I don't distribute it myself that I really see much money anyway. I'm just happy people watch it at that point.
Like I said, I wanted to deep dive your career. I went deep into your IMDb page and your Wikipedia and pretty much everywhere. You have some very interesting credits on IMDb, including stuff from like every single department there can be, like VFX to camera to costumes to stunts on Kazam, the Shaq movie. So I know you mentioned earlier that you're from like a film family. Your dad did VFX, is that correct?
I did special effects.
Special effects, okay.
They go hand in hand. Special effects, so it's more the practical end.
Okay, yeah, it was labeled as VFX on IMDb when I looked.
I know they get interchanged sometimes.
So where did you go to like a traditional film school? How did you learn all these trades? You've become like a jack of all trades, clearly, from all these different things you've done. Where did you learn all these skills?
I learned all of that just from working with friends and family in the film business ever since I was a kid. It's in different departments. So it was always like, hey, we need help on this movie. Okay, we're just going to kind of learn how to do that. And I just did that for years, worked in every different department essentially there is, and just kind of picked up and learned things. And then each movie I made, I'd kind of learn how to do a new thing. So then, because I'm always like, well, movies, they never really make more money. They make like an average. I'm like, okay, so if I'm going to support myself doing this, I kind of have to learn how to do more things myself so I can kind of just do everything myself and survive. So each movie would kind of learn new things. I tried film school out for about a day. I remember I did this like, I won't say which film school, but there was a film school I went to. I did first day. It was like the whole orientation and like the syllabus, and you saw the other people I was going to be in class with, what they knew, and then the teacher telling me that I'm going to have to work with all of these people, and like I was just like, I felt like I was. It's like, I guess, if you're like a 12th grader and they're like, okay, we're going to have a bunch of 6th graders help you out with your assignment, and you're going to get graded like they're all 12th graders. And I was like, oh shit, this is no shade on them. I'm just like, I am way too experienced to be here right now. So then I went and got a refund from that, and the refund I got from that went straight into funding the FP short, which got the FP made.
So the FP was your first like feature film, but before that came out, you had an FP short that you made in 2007.
Correct. And then before that, I had shorts I made in high school of the FP, and then like 30 other shorts of weird movies. And I also made a feature film in high school that, in order to ever show to the light of day, because there's so much copywritten music and whatever else in it, I'd have to go and find the tapes and completely re-edit it from the ground up, which I'm not opposed to, but I just have to go acquire that, called Moon Vampires. Okay, that was my high school film. And it, I guess it's like Lord of the Rings, sci-fi, Army of Darkness on terrible video with a bunch of non-actor high school kids. But yeah.
That's a piece of lore that I did not see anywhere. You just dropped some deep lore.
No. No, that's
Jason
deep
Trost
lore,
for
yeah.
you. So there was multiple FP shorts.
Correct. But
There was
they're like the super wild high school ones that are, they're kept in the vault.
I have seen one. I don't
Correct.
know
Yeah, bro.
where it was uploaded from, but it was shot like in a house. I don't know if that's the one that got it made or if that's one of your older ones.
That's definitely not one of the ones.
Okay. So my question was centered on this short I saw that was just like a bunch of people in a house making, kind of generally putting the story of the FP together. How did you go from the short that you made for that, to the feature of FP?
Well, I remember I made those shorts in high school, and then I would show like my brother, who was in real film school, my older brother, like what I was working on. And you're like, yeah. And I showed him those, and then like he just like was on the ground like laughing. He's like, this is what you got to develop. This is it. And I was like, really, that one? That's the one you like? Okay. And so I went and wrote a feature script around it, and then it just kind of went from there. I was like, I don't know why people like this one, but sure. And here we are 4 movies later.
When you go to make the FP, are you pitching that to like studios, or like everything you do now? It seems it's independent clearly, but you're like,
Oh yeah.
you're getting distributors, obviously. Like,
Well,
are you like, I want this Dance Dance Revolution gang movie will you
yeah. I mean, look,
distribute that?
we tried to go down that route way back when, being like, God, like 20, going out and getting like real agents and trying to like pitch that movie around town. Like, people were as confused as you'd expect when you go into like real meetings like that. Like, who are these kids? I was pretending to be 25 because I was told being 20 was too young. I would have to like shotgun a beer in the parking lot because apparently it gave me more confidence in the room. Like, the shit agents tell you is crazy in Hollywood. Yeah, that obviously didn't work out. So then we got it funded by independent sources, family members, other just deranged people who, yeah, it's a whole other story. And yeah, now, like, I don't know, I've done the distributor thing, I've done the not distributor thing. I always bounce back and forth, but I always kind of end up back to doing it myself, because when I self-distribute, I have so much more control over it, and you can action things so much more, and I can give it directly to the people I know actually want to watch it. Because distributors try to just do the shotgun method where they'll like go and blast it out as wide as they can. I'm like, your average person doesn't want these movies. You have to hit the niche. These are made for very specific sort of people, and they can just never wrap their heads around that.
Like, I can't imagine what the experience was of pitching the FP, because I try to pitch people on it all the time. I'm like, you got to watch this movie, and I explain it, and they look at me like I'm insane. And I'm like, no, you watch it. It's a really good movie. And then people watch it and they love it. But it's just like it's a weird pitch to give. So I was very curious about that
Oh, yeah.
experience.
Yeah, I haven't actually, I don't think I've gone in and pitched a movie in 10 years at this point. I just like, it just got to the point where I was like, after doing that for years and years, I was like, this is just wasting everybody's time, wasting my time, wasting that. Nobody's ever going to want to fund what I'm making. Like, unless but then I found out, I was like, wait a second, the people who do want to fund what I'm making are actually the people I'm directly selling it to. So why don't we just go that route and stop dealing with these people that are trying to suck all the weird creative heart and soul out of these things? And, a little more elbow grease for me, sure, but like, at least I get to make something that actually resembles what I first wrote. I remember I was at one point getting a job to write and direct this movie for some sort of production company. And it was going to be like a bigger thing. It would have been like $1 million for me, is like more than every movie I've ever made combined. So I was like, oh, that sounds cool. $1 million. And it was this thing called Megafoot, to where it was like a half Bigfoot, half machine. So I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I could do that. And they sent me the script and I had to rewrite it. And then by the time we got to the point where we almost shot the movie, I had done 44 drafts of notes for them. And at that point, I was like, I don't recognize any of this. What idiots? Like, sure, I'll shoot it because I need money, but like, what is going on? And then the same day that they got in touch with me to book my plane travel out to like New York to shoot the movie was the same day the entire movie fell apart, and I never heard from them again. And then after that, I was like, fuck this, I'm making FP2. That was the moment where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Because we have months doing this, and then it's so frustrating. Like the notes you get on these scripts, and you're just like, what is happening? The level of focus grouping, to the point of, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people that work that way and enjoy it. It's just not for me.
Yeah, that actually leads into another question. There's a lot of people, when you hear people being interviewed like this about writing movies or writing TV or whatever, they always talk about something they made that they really loved and they pitched, and then it never got made and it just sat on the shelf. Is there a Jason Trost script out there of something you wanted to make that never got made? Or have you been able to consistently make everything?
Oh, sure. I've got like a dozen of those. And to that end, I'm starting to, when I get time, which isn't often, but when I do, I'm starting to pull some of those scripts off the shelf and turn them into books, because I'd rather them be out there that people could read them. And I did that recently with one of my old scripts, Invasion Outback, which is about an alien bounty hunter in the Outback. And yeah, there's a lot of them. And I just figured I'll start turning them into books, because a lot of them, it's like, can I make them? Do I still love them? I don't know. There was a time in my life where I spent a year or two on this, but I'm kind of over it. Maybe I'll put it out there and maybe someone will love it and I'll come back to it. But otherwise, at least it exists and it's off the shelf.
I was curious if if the novels came into that at all, because like looking through your catalog, which that is one of the few pieces of media of yours that I have not consumed of the novels.
Well, it is. If you have Amazon, like I think it's Amazon Kindle Unlimited or something, which you can get a free trial for. And if you do that, you can read Invasion Outback for free, and I still get paid. So if you want to watch it, or if you want to read through that thing for free on your phone or on your computer or Kindle or whatever, that's how you can do it. You can suck it to Amazon, and I get money.
That's great. We'll link that in the description as well.
Yeah.
So last few things, because we're running out of time here. One of the big things, like I mentioned, that we'd watch in high school all the time was you have a couple of videos on your YouTube channel that have seemed to have disappeared for a little bit and came back. So I can't find the exact dates from when they were.
Okay.
But they're trailers for movies that don't exist. They're parody trailers.
Oh, yeah.
These would be The Bornson Stupidity, Not Another Changeling Movie, and Battle Bitches.
And The Red Menace.
The Red Menace, there's the one. I knew there was one I was missing in there. The Bornson Stupidity is something that I quote like on a weekly basis. If I'm looking for something, Bornson's in New Mexico comes out of my mouth very quickly. So I was very curious at what was coming with those. So.
Yeah. No, boys, those were really fun, because one of my really good buddies, Lucas Till, that was when he was first starting to blow up back in the day, when he was, God, we were all kids, but he was like, I think just like 19 or something at that point. And for whatever reason, he was nominated for a Teen Choice Award for the Hannah Montana movie. And they were like, we need you to make some videos that a lot of people will watch to get people talking about you. And for some reason, his management thought it would be a good idea, or maybe I don't know how it's worked out. They're like, yeah, they just want you to make some videos of me to get some people talking. I was like, can I just make like some fake trailers and like share? If you're like, yeah, cool. They think that's cool. And it's like, okay. And then we went out for like 2 weekends and shot all those. I don't know how that translated to Teen Choice Awards, but I love this.
So funny to me that those videos that I watched over and over again link back to the Hannah Montana movie. That is so comical to me.
Were you a teen when you watched them?
Yes, it was, but I had no idea that it had anything to do with the Teen Choice Awards.
It worked. I told him it would.
Yeah, and that's why he won that Choice Award.
I don't think you did, but
Okay. Well, that brings me to another question. You tend to use a lot of the same actors in your movies. Lucas Till being one of them. John
Yeah,
Wayland
MacGyver, of course. It's
and
we don't want to bring
Bruce-
you embarrass him.
What is your casting process? Is it generally like I got some friends, they'll be down to help me, or are you like
Correct.
casting them or writing a page for these people specifically?
I almost never write a part in a movie for someone I don't know specifically, because I'm a big proponent when you're making these low budget movies. Like, I like to write for what I know I have, not what I hope I'm going to have. And I know I have a lot of talented friends who are actors, or they're not actors, but they're fun to watch on screen. So I'll traditionally just write things for them. That's why it's always hard. I'll get messages and things, which, it's hard because they're like, hey, let me know when you're doing your next casting process for the movie. How do I get in one of your movies? I'm like, I don't know. I work with my friends. Like, become one of my friends and we'll figure it out. It's a horrible answer, but that's kind of just my process. I like to work with my friends because when I don't work with my friends, it generally doesn't go very well.
No, I get that because
I have fun.
what I do here is very by myself all the time. So anytime I'm doing a skit or something where I need another person, I'm like immediately like, hey, who's got time to come do this stupid bit with me? We can laugh for like 4 hours trying to film a 10-second bit. So I totally get like, let's get our friends involved in all of this over, trying to bring in some outside help on something.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I also mean like friends too. It's like, I'm open to new friend, like meeting you, like I'm open to that now, cause I know you now, but it's like, it's a very strange thing when you bring someone into it and they can like glamorize it and think it's going to be something huge and glamorous. You're like, no, it's just a couple of us sitting on the couch having a beer and get in front of a green wall and run around with a gun. Like, that's all it is. There's nothing glamorous about this.
Don't get my hopes up.
Upset.
I'll be on a plane to Australia tomorrow. I'll just stand in front of the green screen.
This isn't about getting paid. It's about being creative and having fun. And that's it. Like, we'll work a few hours and then we'll go to the bar. That's it.
Yeah, I love that energy. So I hit you with one last question, and we'll save these. Maybe eventually there'll be a part 2 when AFAR comes out. Oh, sure, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm available.
You did a series of music videos for Slayer.
All right.
I'm very curious about the process of that because I watched a documentary on that as well. It was very in on the director of it, which wasn't you. You were just an actor in these?
What in this? Are you talking about the Slayer videos?
Yes, the Slayer videos. Were you the director of those?
No, I wasn't. My friend BJ McDonald was the director of those, and that's the only reason I'm in those, because BJ likes to cast me in things, which is amazing. Like, BJ is basically the only reason you've ever seen me in anything notable in the last 10 years. Because he'll always do something and drag me in. And then by drag me in, I'm like, please put me in anything. You know what he does, which is very nice of him. But I think he also knows it's because I'll do anything. But I don't complain much. And yeah, those were so much fun to make. Like, the fact that I got to just like shoot the shit with Danny Trejo all day and be in scenes with him while I'm covered in blood all day, because they want to shoot Danny out and get him out faster because he costs a lot of money. And I'm like the free guy. So I just show up and they'll be like, okay, so we're going to shoot the scene where you get covered in blood first. Then we're going to shoot out Danny, and then you come. So I'm like, okay, great. So I'll just be here for 4 hours covered in blood. Got you. Whatever. I guess I'll just make the most of it. Just hang out. And so it was telling me stories about heat, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Did you have a lot of input on that then, or was it just you were just there as the actor of that?
I did have a little bit of input. I mean, most of it's BJ's, brainchild, and he did such a cool job with all that stuff. And we have similar sensibilities. But yeah, he'd ask me if, like, what do you think about this? And I'd help him out when I could. But he was pretty much there. I think I had some story ideas that made their way into the Slayer the movie, which is the Blu-ray where it has all 3 of the music videos, and then there's like a 15-minute like wrap-up epilogue movie. I had a little bit of, I had gave him some ideas for that he used. That's, I think, pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. He's just one of those great buddies I've had for years and years, and we'd love to work together, but hasn't aligned recently. Ever since Studio 666, which he also directed. That's why I popped up in that.
Okay. Yeah, there were a couple credits that I saw that I skipped over that question, like J-Tro being in This Is the End, and you have a credit in Hatchet 3 as well.
Hatchet 3 again is a BJ McDonald directed film, and that happened because I was out there to shoot that because he hired me, and then that was out in Louisiana. And then the movie, right when I got there, because it's a low budget horror movie, got pushed like 2 weeks for whatever reason. And my brother was also in town shooting This Is the End. And then so I just went and hung out with him for 2 weeks while I was waiting around for BJ's movie to start up. And then I was at the bar one night hanging out with Seth Rogen and the rest of the cast, and Seth's like, "You should be in the movie tomorrow, man." I was like, "All right, cool," because like the FB was just coming out at the time, and I thought he was just, because you never know, people are just drunk and they say shit. And then the next day I was on set as J-Tro, and I was like, "Well, here we are."
Oh, man, I did not expect to get an incredible Seth Rogen impression today.
You know, spent a lot of time in that circle.
Well, I appreciate you hanging out and talking with me today. It was I was very surprised when you answered and said you were down to do
Oh, man.
this. So I really
Dude, pleasure's all mine. This is a delight. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
I really shouldn't, because I'll just keep going.
Okay. Where, if people want to find you, where can they find everything you do?
Okay, well, I mean, I'm on like every social media there is except TikTok because I don't understand it. But uh, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Blue Sky. It's usually some form of like at the JTro or Jason W. Trost or something like that. Or you can just go to my Twitter or Blue Sky handle, and in there, I mean, you can put this link in there. I have a link tree that'll show you everything I do and every place I'm at. And if you're interested in any of that, go nuts. If you want to watch a bunch of my YouTube videos to help me get monetized on there so I can start doing more stuff on there, go nuts. Play them in the background. Love it. Need those watch hours.
I've been listening to your commentaries like a podcast this week.
Oh, no, nice. Well done. Thank you.
I wanted to be thorough. All right. Well, thank you again, Jason, for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Hey, if you made it this far, I really, really appreciate you watching through all that. I know it was a little rough at the beginning. This is my first interview, and Jason was so great. Helped me all the way through it. I couldn't have asked for anyone better to be my first interview. He was just fantastic all the way through. You should definitely go check out everything Jason's doing. If you haven't seen it, go check out his Indiegogo. Go play his demo. He's been uploading a lot of his movies and commentaries to YouTube. Go over there, help him get monetized, like you said. Just follow everything he does. Everything he does is great. I've been a fan for years, obviously, as seen here. If you're a fan of me or want to be a fan of me now, for all of the things I do here, you can subscribe right here on YouTube and get everything I make now. And if you really like watching somebody play Tony Hawk, you can come check out my streams at 9 p.m. Central Time every Friday. Been working through the Tony Hawk series, and boy, is it a nightmare playing Tony Hawk Ride. And of course, if you want to get in touch with me throughout the week when I'm not streaming or posting a video, you can join the Blaster Goblin public Discord. It'll be down in the description, along with all of Jason's links and a link to my newest video. And if you want to spend even more time with me, you can watch one of these videos. It's going to pop up here. All right, you spent a lot of time with me. Bye.